A very good evening and welcome this edition of the Fourth Estate. Charles Mongu Shampagi. And tonight, after months of debate on the constitution amendment that will affect particularly the land law, the Fourth Estate would like to weigh in on that discussion and ask the question, is this a panacea for development or will it cause more problems? To discuss that tonight, let me start with, we have a member of parliament from Kilak South in Amuru district, Gilbert Olanya. Very nice to have you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Charles. I would like to appreciate each and everyone watching today. I am really so grateful to be in the Fourth Estate. Thank you so much.
We expect to be joined by another member of parliament. Maybe he's trying to make his way here. He'll join us and we'll introduce him when he comes here, because it's a he, so I can make that clear. Angelo Izama. Angelo, it's a pleasure to be with you here.
Thank you, Charles.
You don't need a lot of introduction to a lot of our viewers. Onapito Ekomoloit, Corporate and Legal Affairs Director at Nile Breweries, AB InBev.
Good evening, Charles, and good evening, panel and the viewers.
Gentlemen, I want to start with you, Angelo. There's a lot of contention on, I think this just ended week, the Deputy Minister for Lands, Persis Namuganza, attempted to do or did a consultative meeting in Fort Portal. And it ended almost disastrously because people were really, really upset. NTV ran the pictures of that consultative meeting and people said, don't touch our land. There have been other consultations across the country. Members of parliament from the opposition especially have been moving, doing mobilization. The National Resistance Movement held a caucus meeting also this week, and we're told that for once it was one of those very heated caucus discussions where the president was shouting on top of his voice and other people, especially Okotogong, who should have been here with us this evening. This controversy over the constitutional amendment, where do you see this ending?
Well, I think there are two problems here which bear talking about. The first is that our economy is not growing fast enough, and so a lot of wealth, first of all, I say it's not growing fast enough, and because it's not growing fast enough, it is not inclusive enough. So you've got a huge unemployment problem. At the same time, you have a industrialization hasn't taken off. If you think about the problems that governments set out to solve, they're not that many. It's where you live, what you eat, security for you and your family, how you travel, when you fall sick, where you get treatment. This is really the universe of problems that government solve, and the industries that government tries to encourage, they reside in these things. Now, because the economy is not growing fast enough, and because of our political systems, there's a lot of uncertainty. And so there is overcrowding in the few areas where wealth is deposited. Land is one of those. And real estate, if you'd like. For the elite, you know, those the Napitos who have money, many of them are putting their assets in brick and stone. Part of it is uncertainty. In Uganda here, everyone is like, where's your plot of land? But land is not fungible. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't grow. It doesn't expand. It doesn't expand. And an artificial economy has grown, particularly fueled by corruption around land and around houses. But these are like, this is what Hernando de Soto described as dead capital. It's just brick and stone. And it's building almost like, you know, an insidious form of a heart disease at the center of Uganda's economy, where people, because politics is not organizing them properly, are all overcrowding on in these two assets and raising political temperatures. Now, it's a good thing that in the course of this proposal about land and land use, that the government has confronted these fears. Because the fears are not really about, oh, the government will take your land. It is, what do we do without our land? If the land is the only last resort that we have. And the government has not been, it just doesn't have the political goodwill, given its own track record, to make the argument that, no, look, we want your land because we are opening up the economy such that you may benefit at the tail end.
It can make a convincing argument about that.
It can make, and I think that it should drop this thing. That's
Okay.
the first thing, and then I have a second point to make, which is really about ownership of this. But I'll get to it once we get on the road with this violent, actually nationalist.
Violent, actually nationalist. What a description. But let me come quickly to you. Teso sub-region, particular, has been. It's a bit quiet now, but one of those hotspots overland. It's the only place I think we have seen a minister cane people because they have taken over and they're grazing in wetlands in Teso. But there was this heated debate in the NRM caucus. And the president, as chairman of the NRM, is facing a revolt within his own political party. Okoto Gong has been reported to have stood up to the president and said, no, we can't listen to you on this proposal. Where does the president, as the principal originator of this proposed amendment, go with this, with the kind of debate that has followed?
Look, Charles, first of all, I sympathize with the president when he makes the argument that land compensation is one of the main hindrances to sort of infrastructural development. I think we have had so many stories, especially from the land probe committee, where clearly land compensation has been a major factor. But of course, it's only one side of the story that the president is advancing, and I guess that's why he's facing this challenge. The real reason why then this has become a problem is that either the president is not being told the full story, often it's because there's an artificial crisis created by agents within government circles who artificially inflate the compensation claims, either by directly participating in colluding with the people on whose land the infrastructure is supposed to be set up, by the road, or creating ghost claims. We have had all these stories, and I think there's credible evidence to say that the compensation process has been mixed up with the legitimate claims and fake claims. And then, as Angelo said,
so are they trying to address a different problem by, by making this constitution?
And then, of course, there's a whole challenge whereby the way government sees the need for land to do infrastructure is not the way most people see. I know, for example, in our part of the country, the road from Soroti to Moroti is to be tarmac. And if you came and asked a person like me on whose land the road passes, whether it should be compensated, I wouldn't ask for the compensation because I know I need a tarmac road, largely because I have a car and I know what it means to have a tarmac road. But so how many people have cars in that part of the country? So for them, whether it's Maram or it's tarmac, it doesn't make much difference.
But they get stuck on the same road as if they're traveling public.
Getting stuck as a passenger and getting stuck as the one driving the car, two different things. So until when the interests of the people and the interests of government in developing infrastructure are the same, they are going to see this as just, I mean, if there are people who genuinely think if power lines that pass through my land, I have nothing to lose. I can stop and say, compensate. I will not the power lines go overhead and I have no chance of connecting power to my house. So that inability to relate the need for infrastructure with direct benefit to the people is what makes people not share the pain the president is expressing. They see it as something that does not really directly relate to them.
I have an opinion on that, but I don't want to disagree with you. Let me first come to Gilbert Olanya. Gilbert, Angelo described you as a violent, actually nationalist, partly because I believe you've been in the news over the last few days over, and Amuru, the district you represent in Parliament, has had some of the most dramatic and most violent confrontations over land. You had a stripping by women about 2 years ago. You had another stripping the other day by elders. You've used bows and arrows to chase away people from APA. And now the biggest controversy over the interest by the biggest sugar manufacturer in the country, Madvani, to build a sugar factory in Amuru. When you put this together with the proposed constitution amendment, and you sit in Parliament, it's been presented before you, what do you see as the outstanding issues and how do they relate exactly with your situation?
Thank you so much, my brother Charles and my colleagues. Before I respond to that, let me appreciate my colleagues from the NRM side. You know, they had very important meeting there, NRM Caucus, and I thank them for being so bold and telling His Excellency exactly what is in their mind. So I would like to thank them so much for that. I would like also to appreciate the leader of the opposition. You know, we have been moving, in fact, all over the country. They completed West Nile. The other day they were in Acholi, they were in Teso, really trying to talk to the community and seeking their views as far as this land amendment bill is concerned.
Just a moment there. Are they actually trying to seek the views of the people, or they're trying to heap up sentiment and do political mobilization against what might actually be an innocent proposed change of the constitution in regards to land?
What is happening is that they talk to the people, and then they also ask people to tell them their mind. What do you say about the amendment? What are your views? So it's both telling them what they're supposed to do and also seeking the opinion.
They first tell them and then seek the opinion. They're telling them the government wants to grab your land, and then then ask them what the opinion is. Is that really what they're trying to communicate here?
No, mostly seeking the views of the people about this bill. And maybe away from that, from the point that you brought my brother, he described me as someone who has been really very hard on land. And it's true. You know, land is everything. Like some of us who come from northern Uganda, we grew up and we studied from the money got from land. And I'm telling you, without land, many of us wouldn't have reached even university level. Land is everything, especially for the people coming from the other part of northern Uganda, or the greater north, per se, the 53 districts. And in the past 10 years, we have had very serious issue of land in Amoro. The Madivani group of people expressed their views to acquire 40,000 hectares of land in 2008. So from 2008 up to now, Madivani people have never acquired even an acre in Amoro. And then we have other investors that came quite late, barely 2 years ago, like Dr. Amina, this lady of Oriel Company Holding Limited. And then there's another white man who comes from Australia. They came barely 2 years ago. Right now they have acquired chunk of land in Amuro. This is a clear indication that the approach, the procedures of acquiring land in Amuro, it has been perceived very wrongly, especially by Madivani group of company. Not that we are against investors. Right now we are telling investors, come to northern Uganda, come to Acholi land, but follow the rightful procedure. The best procedure that we are advocating for is go and negotiate with the landowners. Land in northern Uganda, in Acholi specifically, is customarily owned. Therefore, go to the landowners, negotiate with them, agree on clear terms and conditions. But for my divided group of company, instead of going to the community, negotiating with them, for them, they run straight to State House.
That's not entirely accurate. We don't have Madivani representation on the show here. But what I have learnt preparing for the show is that Madivani group of companies came to Amuru District Council, applied for land. They were interested in building an estate on 40,000 hectares.
Yes, yes.
But the nucleus estate they want is 20,000. They wanted initially is 20,000 hectares. The other 20,000 hectares would be owned by outgrowers, but supplying them. They were granted a lease, and they paid to the district upwards of 230 million shillings to acquire that land interest. So, do your facts align with what's actually on the ground?
Yeah, what happened was that in 2008, Madivani people went to Amoro District Local Government. When they went to Amoro District Local Government, they went to the District Land Board. And District Land Board allocated 10,000 hectares of land to Madivani People Company. Initially, they proposed for 40,000 hectares. But the District Land Board said, no, we cannot give you 40,000 hectares of land. That one is too big. So they gave Madivani 10,000 hectares. That was in 2008.
Wasn't that a scaling back? Because I understand that once the 20,000 they wanted for their nucleus estate became complicated, they scaled back and said, we can grow. First acquire 10,000 and then expand gradually because there had been controversy had emerged.
Yes. So when the district land board allocated to them 10,000 hectares, the members of parliament by then, Nyeko Michael Uchula and Pinto David, decided to take Amoro District Land Board and Amoro Sugar Work, that is Madivani, to court, claiming that District Land Board has got no mandate in allocating customary land to an investor. That is where the controversies started. When we went to court ruled against the community. According
Those two members of parliament who are representing the community?
Yes, there were three. Nyeko Michael Uchula, Honorable Achir Konsi, and then Honorable Pinto David. So, court ruled against the community. From the ruling, according to the judge, he was saying that he traveled to the place, at a place called Lakang in Kololo, and according to him, he was saying that he didn't see any sign of settlement, he didn't see any building, he didn't see any sign of garden. Therefore, the place was so bushy, hence it is a public land. Not knowing that the actually people were in camps for more than 20 years. And then the reasoning of those members of parliament was really very right. So they were saying, actually people were in camps. You cannot expect, after 20 years, you cannot come here
help me understand this.
Building this.
The district land board is local in every sense, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, and it's one structure of leadership. The members of parliament are another structure of leadership. So if you're coming from outside of Amoro, how do you understand how to navigate this if you know that the go-to place should be the district land board, and once they have given you a lease offer, then you take that as a legitimate. Angelo, you could help us.
I followed that case, and I actually went to visit Amoro like a couple of years ago. That ruling was very disturbing. First of all, it was a wrong ruling. That principle of terra nullius, that you went to a place and you didn't find people and therefore the land is free, was, around the world has been discredited. It is the same principle that that was used to grab the land of the Aboriginal people in Australia. So I read that ruling in shock because, first of all, the events that Honorable Olanya has described about where actually people were at the time shouldn't even have mattered, because there are large tracts of customary land, including in Tesohu, that is unoccupied, but we know that that land belongs to a community. And the fact that they are not present there and that there are no economic activities to lay claim on that land doesn't mean that the land is not owned. Secondly, it is true that if you went to a district land board, like the Amuro District Land Board, the argument being made by the MPs about alienation of customary land is relevant because the District Land Board is a government institution. The community it's true, they are citizens and what, but the community has customary qualities which have been there before this version of the government came along. For avoidance of doubt, the government of Uganda and other administrations that have been on this place for about the last 100 years are just a later day institution. These actually have been there for how many years?
That's from time immemorial.
Precisely. So you can't come to their land, even if it's an administration, a unit of administration that is populated by their sons, and then make the claim that, okay, now we have allocated this land. It just doesn't make sense. And which goes to the root of one of the problems with this present land amendment process, is that it doesn't respect the radical title that is resident with communities. And I think that the tension between politicians and the government is that, look, if you went and wanted to penetrate the community and you suggest to them that, look, your land will be taken in goodwill for purposes of national projects, also in goodwill, you don't alienate that land permanently, and certainly not in a fashion where they can't get it back. And that is where I agree with Olanya that the approach is very important. Communities have been known to give up land where they see that the interest is aligned. But also, the nature of our law, and that's the last point I'll make about this, is that especially after colonization, leasehold, first of all, crown land was sat at the top of the land tenure system. Next was Milo land here in Buganda, and then leasehold and freehold. All of these are alien forms of land ownership.
Land ownership.
The one area of land ownership which is prevalent around the country, customary tenure, is like an orphan form of tenure system. And what we have suggested to the government and others is no, so improve customary tenure, give back confidence to communities, don't alienate this land permanently because it's not yours to give. It's land that has been here for
Isn't
longer.
that exactly, Angela, where there's a problem? Because, and we'll take a break at this. Isn't that where there is a problem? Because when you hear people trying to speak for this amendment, the argument they raise is, like Ona said at the beginning, that because government gets hamstrung trying to implement public infrastructure projects, so it needs to have control. It needs to have radical title, and then it can dispense or decide how the land gets used. I think that's where the biggest controversy.
Yeah, but we're all brothers and sisters here in this community that we're now one in one nation, yes. But why should the imperialism of the way land was acquired under the colonial system be imposed on us? It's not that we cannot, out of our free will, agree with the government on these things. We can. Okay. Yes.
Let's pick this up after a short commercial break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Fourth Estate. Let me first take some messages. Someone says that I should tell you, Honorable Gilbert Olanya, that the investors to go, yes, to advise the investors to go to Mkwano Way in Fort Portal. He bought land, I think she means Kabarol and the Greater Toro area. He bought land from individuals to set up tea plantations. He's happy and the community is happy. We are even willing to give him more. That's Margaret Baguma. Jose Nwabine says, I believe some NRM MPs who are trying to put some semblance of disagreement with the party chairman on the issue of land amendment could be just trying to put a price tag on themselves. But also remember that some of these MPs are land speculators, stroke owners, so they are trying to insulate themselves. However, we need sobriety as we discuss the issue of land. The proponents of the bill have a strong point. Equally, those opposing it have a point. Jose Nwabine. Another listener here, yes, our friend Inteja Simwe says, Honorable Gilbert, let me quote for you one paragraph from Ofono Pondo's article in Sunday Vision today. Mere ownership of land doesn't translate into wealth. Some Acholi MPs are seeking a lease of electoral life while preserving underdevelopment, backwardness, and poverty among their communities. And another, someone says, is advising that we should make a comment about the grand reunion of the freedom fighters at the Kazora Mushega wedding, where the president was, I think Mushega made a wish to the president and said, Mr. President, we met in 1969 and my wish to you would be that to allow me the opportunity to see a president hand over to another president at Kololo peacefully. We've been joined on set by the Honorable Stephen Berahwa Mkitale. He's Member of Parliament for Bulisa constituency. He is an independent, but NRM leaning, and attended the caucus meeting that everyone has been talking about. Before I come to you, welcome to join us. I understand you're coming from the constituency.
Thank you so much, NTV viewers. I'm happy to be here. Yes, coming from Bulisa, where we are yet to get roads, but also when you reach Kampala, which was not planned, you lose another jam on Sunday evening for over 40 minutes from Bomba Highway.
You've been representing those people of Bulisa for some time, so if they don't have roads, maybe you might have to... and the president told us services don't go to those who don't align with him, and you've been aligned with him.
As long as we continue giving MPs to carry individual responsibilities of a state, then we are confusing the country.
No, my argument is that
the MP cannot deliver road.
The president has gone to places and said, your MP is Gilbert Olanya? No, that one Kiping, I don't work with him. Give me people I can work with, and services will come to you, and you've been working with him. But let me just
my bike was an ambulance this morning.
Hold it a moment. Ona, you had a view just before you took the break.
Yeah, I just wanted to give my view on the contradiction we're having as a country in terms of land ownership and how to use land as a factor of development. I think it's a no-brainer that the country is in dire need of jobs because there's massive unemployment among young people. Despite their families owning land and what have you, most of them are restless. They want to leave the countryside. They are looking for jobs in the city. They are looking for jobs in industry. So one of the ways in which to solve this problem is how do we put this land to create jobs? And it's obvious that you need commercial agriculture as one of the avenues, which will then lead to agro-processing. That is really the immediate solution to jobs, in addition to all this service industry, which I'm sure will take time. So, but it's also genuine that you cannot commercialize much of the countryside in terms of agriculture without taking care of where do these people go, because of the land settlement structure whereby most of the areas are heavily settled. And people need to remain, even purely for purpose of having where to sleep, they need to remain somewhere. You can't throw them off the land and send them off the streets. So I think the MPs and others need to start thinking of other models of both commercializing the land and not displacing people. First of all, these are human beings. They are not wild animals. So I don't think there's a contradiction between, for example, having a plantation for sugarcane as well as having human beings settled within the same area. It would only be agreeing with them how much should then be received in terms of compensation, but without living where they are settled. The plantation can exist within a village, only that they are not now able to utilize it the way they want. Currently, the approach is ideal they should live and leave the land free.
Just give way.
But where do they go? Even if you give them money, they just basically are not ready to go and live in town and what have you. They want to remain in that setting they are familiar with. So we are just having stereotypes of how to commercialize land, how to set up industries by displacing people. I don't think that is going to work. It's not going to work.
Honorable Mukitale, can you take us into the caucus discussion? What exactly were the major points of departure between some of the MPs and the president and the party chairman, who's also the president?
First of all, as a form of introduction to this topic, I would want to state the historical background of some of this land problem before we zero just to the caucus position and even the amendment as it is. First of all, as a country, we are doubling. By 2030, we hit 70 million. And by 2045, we could become 100 million. So when we are talking about the land question in this country, the debate in the fourth estate should not just be the amendment as it was brought. We should look at competing land uses. And that's why we talk of multipurpose land use planning. Because you know you have a big population coming in there. How do you then transform these many people from peasant agriculture so that they can be transformed into some people becoming laborers in industry, at an industrialized level, starting from agro-process to industrial to manufacturing? Because ideally, if we are transforming, we should see the population shift, the migration of a population from agro, more land-related, to urbanized, working class, to finally more into service industry. Now, if that evolution does not take place, we start getting problems of going back, resorting to tribal land, because of a failure of a transformation. That should be understood. Secondly, the 1995 Constitution did not envisage this development. You can really see that possibly the Amin's decree was more progressive than the 1995 Constitution. The 1995 Constitution, unfortunately, does not vest land in the state as a trustee. It gives the radical title to the citizens. Now, that's a very big departure in terms of progressive land for economic development.
According to who?
I'm now speaking on an economic angle.
Yes.
So it is that it is that radical title which the state then, the Supreme Constitution, I think because we were dying to get votes in 96, said land belongs to the people. Now, when land belongs to the people, at what latitude does the state have to plan that land? So, so that's where the first problem is. Do you want ownership of land, or you are talking about developing land? You know, you can develop land on a lease. You can develop land. You can own land. The state can have a radical title, but for you to use it, you have to follow the government plan. For example, the 2010 Country Planning Act is in place, but who is implementing it in terms of financing it? You know, and the same 2010, we're talking of Kampala and other cities, but we just made a takeover law of Kampala as it is. Don't touch Mengo, don't bring in Wakiso. That is part of the confusion. So when you're talking about a bigger population challenge, if you talk about industrialization, then you do land use planning in terms of cities as growth centers, which have even industrial parks. So that if I want to invest in West Nile, I go to Arua, there's an industrial park, there is a city. I also can put a housing estate. And because of our population explosion, we shouldn't even be putting up bungalows. The money we are wasting in bungalows should also be going into areas of vertical, low-cost housing. So it is a very broad area of land use planning, of physical planning, cities with structural plans, so that even this panic of saying there is no pipe, we have nowhere to pass a pipeline, we have nowhere for a road, nowhere for... This is provided for when you do physical planning in terms of cities with structural plan. Kampala, for example, our structural plan expired 20 years ago. 1996 is when it expired. And we are just trying to add on an old colonial structural plan. Few cities like Jinja and Mbale had a bit of semblance of planning, but we are also overstretching them. So the debate cannot be exhausted by just constitutional amendment and some declarations. We need to do more planning. We need to do more funding of the agriculture sector. And we're not talking about
the wish list is long.
The land
but
sector.
You said what informed the 1995 constitutional provision,
Yes.
vesting land in the people, was an election in 1996.
That's my hunch.
Yes.
That's my guess.
You have an election coming up in 2020, and this proposed amendment has come bang in the middle of, one, a discussion about, yes, that election and whether you're going to have to change the age limit to allow the chairman of the party which you are aligned to run again. Where are you going to disentangle this discussion and have the sober discussion that you're trying to propose?
I don't want to trivialize this important debate to small things.
What is the
By the way, even if we talk about constitutional amendment on land, Bam Gemereri is just telling us an expose of so many problems in land sector. The tenants and the squatters are being thrown out. We don't just need land for government investment in terms of infrastructure. I've talked about industrial parks. We need nucleus projects in every region. Where smallholders can acquire land.
Honorable Mkitalo, you can make the speech about why we need, and we can have a discussion about what is going on, what you in structures of leadership are actually doing today. You have a constitution amendment bill before you in Parliament. It's kicking up a storm everywhere you're going, including the caucus which you attended. There have been demonstrations and arrests in Amuru, for example. And these are real live things that we're having to deal with. So how, I had asked you that you take us to the caucus.
Yes,
what were the points of disagreement, what were the points of agreement, and where next?
Now, first of all, the constitutional amendment coming to deal with only the government compulsory acquisition was wrongly informed. Because, first of all, at Parliament, our position, expectation at the end of last Parliament was we are starting Parliament with the Constitutional Review Commission. Because in terms of procedure, in terms of parliamentary precedence, That's what was expected. A Constitutional Review Commission and an omnibus amendment, including, among others, lands and not just government compulsory acquisition. Secondly,
So what informed, have you been told what informed the bringing of an individually focused amendment?
Of course, every right-thinking citizen would want government infrastructure projects not to be delayed. But the question is, when you have a 1995 constitution which envisaged that there will be an enabling law to actualize that prompt, prior, and adequate payment, and that is the Land Acquisition Act, which is older than my age. You know, it was put in place in 1965 when I was being born. Have we revisited that law so that it is in tandem with the requirement of government today? When you have a country planning act I've talked about, have you personalized it by making sure it is funded? When you have a land policy 2013, have you brought it, have you reconciled?
So when you asked all these questions in the caucus, what answers did you get? I mean, I guess that's
the
what
way
you
forward.
want to hear.
The way forward is
Could you please answer Honor's question? When you raise this,
in the caucus is
when you raise this plethora of questions in the caucus and in the other avenues where you have opportunity to be and we don't have, what answers do you get?
the position now in the caucus, in the legal committee, and plenary is beginning to narrow. We think that we need to support quick acquisition of land for these projects, but we do not have to necessarily amend the constitution. We can revisit the enabling law, the 1965 Land Acquisition Act, which, by the way, there has been extra legislation through court. There are court rulings to the effect that it should be revisited. But also, we could put in place an ad hoc and some kind of a special court which has a time limit and deals with this problem of land acquisition without necessarily touching the grand norm, without necessarily looking at touching the constitution per se.
Angelo,
so
I'll throw this to you. You've seen where Kitale has taken us.
It's taken us.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I don't know where he has taken us, actually.
I've been listening. I've been trying to
That's why
find focus.
That's why he has been
I
a
think-
serial MP. His opponents cannot understand him.
Yes. I think this is what the chairman would have described in his earlier years as obscurantism, obfuscation for that matter. Look, it appears to me that he is opposed to land being owned by the people,
It's an argument he's held for many years.
which is wrong because, you know, the first time we actually interacted, Honorable Stephen, the government wanted to arrest you for inciting your people against
no.
cattle
Criminals,
keepers.
land grabbers wanted, had
See?
framed me.
No. I remember
But
because we had these conversations all for a long time.
No, but Angela, it's interesting
Yes.
actually. Where do you place land grabbers, criminal land grabbers, and a push? It's a contradiction. A push for governments to have radical title.
Precisely. He argued at the time that there was a scheme to flood his valley with cattle keepers who would then grab land from locals. And he disagreed even with the honest purchase of land because he said this land belonged to his own people.
To the Bagumbu.
Him being, by the way, a sizable landowner in Bulisa, as we found out later. So look, I don't know how his views have transformed, except to say that his winding argument may show that he should be resident. I mean, I think ideologically, it may show the confusion in the party that he serves. Look, it is the right position for land to be owned by the people. That position is not wrong. The Constitution is simply expressing what has been there as an age-held concept, that this land belongs to people who settled there ancestrally. Secondly, the Constitution also says that power belongs to the people. The government works for the people. So I don't think that
It depends on which people.
advancing an argument.
When you talk of power belong to the people, depends on which people.
We can qualify this. So advancing an argument that somehow the government knows best, and there's a separation between a government that plans well, its plans includes, jobs, growth of cities, all of these things. That is simply activity, and we can come to this position that, look, we all agree that competent governments with the trust of the people can act in the people's best interest. What is at heart here in Uganda today is that not only has successful administration shown that they are not competent enough to mobilize Ugandans, put them to work, follow their own stated policies, some of which he has cited, which have been there since the 60s, that show that planned progress is possible. Now, you can't come at the tail end of that and simply complain, as I have seen his party saying that somehow it is the people and the systems that they hold on to that are standing in the way of progress. That's just not true. Yes. Let the government concede that it's not a competent entity to advance this vision. And by the way, I also disagree, and I'm going to turn this to Honorable Lanya, that the government knows best for us. It's not true. This idea that the government knows best is not true, and there are many examples of this fact.
If Gilbert could come in briefly, and then
yes.
I'll get Honor, and then I'll come to you, and then we'll take a break.
Yes, Mr. Charles, I do recall very well the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Kadaga, advising executives when we had just started the 10th Parliament, just to bring all the amendments that they used to, all the amendments in the Constitution, not part of it, as you ask some times back. The way I'm looking at it is that the executives are picking part of the amendment, the one that they feel it will help them to satisfy their personal interest for the future. For example, on this land amendment bill, they wouldn't have brought it at this particular time, because the Speaker gave very good guidance that let all the amendments be put together.
Isn't that dangerous? Omnibus bills are dangerous because you're forced to make trade-offs that you otherwise wouldn't have made if you had individualized pieces of legislation. Because you're uncomfortable with land, for example.
Yes.
You will have to agree to another proposal within the same omnibus bill, wouldn't you?
That is if you don't have the Constitutional Review Commission. We are really not just saying that we are talking over an extra parliament, an extra government, a comprehensive consultative process. Aware that our Constitution has served another some 20 years.
So can you help me as members of Parliament? Why are you wasting everybody's time and government resources on a piece of legislation that you agree has no place in the current state of things, where you have demanded that a Constitutional Review Commission be put in place, where you have a land probe committee already working and expending money? Why in the caucus didn't you ask the chairman, why waste resources and time?
At the close of 9th Parliament, it was resolved that 4 months to election, we did not have time and concentration to deal with constitutional amendments. It was agreed that the first business at the beginning of this Parliament will be Constitutional Review Commission.
And you have been
the Speaker, some of us have asked this more than 4 times on the floor. Actually, one of the reasons why the Engineer Kafero amendment of judges' age was thrown out was on a procedural question we raised, to the effect that Minister of Constitutional Affairs, have you relegated your responsibility?
Yes, and you've been in Parliament for a year. This government is 1
year
year old.
And that was agreed.
Yes.
So the blame cannot
1 year,
be
3 months old.
The blame cannot be to Parliament. The blame cannot be to Parliament. But also, in this country, we have what they call the Constitution, the Law Reform Commission.
Can that responsibility go to the NRM caucus? Because the NRM is in charge of this government.
You see now.
And dominates Parliament.
Yes, NRM, we have the numbers. NRM has the, you can say that the objective and subject to conditions right now favors NRM. But what we are saying, there should be a public service. The state is also composed of a public service. What does the Law Reform Commission do? The judiciary has, over the years, accumulated a lot of
You're
legislation
kicking
in
the
form
can,
of rulings.
Honorable Mkhitaryan. You're
No, no,
kicking
no.
the can to
No,
someone
no, no.
else.
What
You're just passing the ball and not trying to either get your party to be responsible for what is going on, or maybe you're all together taking the country for a run, for a ride rather. Is
The
that what they call it?
constitutional amendment has not come from Parliament. It is coming from where it's coming, because first of all, also people have misinformed the president.
Oh, really?
They have also not told him there are so many areas in the country
Okay.
where projects have been executed without compensation.
Okay.
And people are
Let
demanding
me
money.
take a fairly long message, and then I'll come to you, Honor. This long message is partly for Gilbert Olanya. It's from the Deputy General Manager at Kakira Sugar Works. It's called Kenneth Barungi. He says, the land was previously a hunting ground before the LRA war. Public land now and rightly belongs to the District Land Board. A clique of MPs and businessmen came in recently, including the elite, the political elite of Acholi, acquired land. I am the one who's adding the political elite of Acholi. Acquired land so that they get huge compensation. The district has the duty to care for its people, but also has to understand how those few big shots got that land only after Madivani showed interest. Then Nwaya district, which now, since the division, part of this land is in Nwaya district. And Nwaya district has been inviting Kakira and saying, please come over for us, we have no problem, we'll accommodate you. Yes, it's only 10, the 10,000 hectares that are in Amuru, the 30 are in Nwaya. And Kakira employs, yes, Kakira is employing, right now it's employing 9,000 people directly and about 100,000 indirectly. So one of the major issues I've been told is that in Amuru specifically, the elite, after knowing the area of interest of the Madivani group, have gone and tried to acquire private title to increase individual compensation. And that's where some of the agitation is coming from, which is akin to what has been happening with some of these government projects, where people have advance information, acquire land, and then hike up compensation demand.
So, Charles, I'll leave that to the Honorable Lanya, the issues of Amuru. I just wanted to give my piece on the whole gymnastics about the constitutional amendment, to have it or not to have it. To me, it's actually immaterial, because the problem is not the law. There is ample evidence that the problem is the actors. It doesn't matter what law you introduce. If the actors who are motivated by profiteering have access to state power, they will manipulate the law to suit their ends. So there is, I believe even within the current legislation, if you have well-intentioned actors, public projects can be executed and the owners of the land can be compensated fairly. So no law is going to fix a situation where there are individuals who are motivated by other motives other than executing public projects and compensating the owners of the land fairly.
Okay.
So the rest for Amuru, I leave to the MP.
Okay, I'll come to you in a moment. Bills is saying the question of land amendment bill is a true reflection of breakdown of the trust between the people and the government. Time for the elite to rethink of power relations. Yes, Gilbert, you have 30 seconds, and then I will take a break.
Yeah, Charles, I would like to say on the allegations that the elites and some politicians acquired land in that place, I think that allegation is not true. The only politicians who are having land in that area, we have the former member of parliament, Nyeko Michael Ochula, and the former member of parliament, Pento David. All of them that are coming from Lamogi clan. And that land is the customary land of the clan called Lamogi, where I also come from. Me personally, I do not have even an acre in that area. And then
what happened to your clan? It had no land.
No, you know, we own land customarily. Therefore, we have the demarcations. This is for the particular clan of maybe Pailiech, this is Opakiri, and we have various clans. So Ochula Michael and Paintor David, their customary land is located in that particular area. Not that they went and got it after when maybe Madivani showed the interest to grow cane in Amuru. And then on the say that is the public land, I really feel this is a very unfortunate statement. They are following what court rule, that it is a public land. But that land has never been a public land. It's a customary land for the community of Amuru and Lamogi in specifically. And then on the say that it was the hunting ground. You know, in the past, they all over actually land. In fact, there were no people in that area. You know, actually people migrated from South Sudan, from a place called Bayer Gazelle. Yeah, from South Sudan. So if you are to begin digging on the history, and then you may also discover that even Kampala, there were no people in Kampala. Kampala as a whole, it was a hunting area. So people started migrating. Hunting
area for what? I thought this was a hunting area for the actually leaders of the time. They were already there.
For the Wachwezi and the Ngoni.
Yes. And that's what I'm saying. If you are to go back to history, you may trace that even your father's land, it was an empty land. So we should not dwell much on the history.
And just
let us dwell on
the issue of hunting. Those of us who grew up hunting, you actually even hunt in somebody's land.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean that when you hunt,
I thought the argument has been that this was designated hunting areas. We'll take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll conclude discussions on this, and especially where next after this heated debate.
And now you'll say, Chief.
Welcome back to this last segment of the fourth estate. Interesting discussions off the air. Sometimes we need to keep the cameras on so that we can bring in that discussion. We're discussing land in this country. And the question is, the proposed constitutional amendment, is it a recipe for disaster or an anchor for development? And we have with us in the studio Stephen Beraho Mkitali. He's a member of parliament for Bulisa County. He is an independent, but NRM leaning. Gilbert Olanya represents Kilak South constituency in Amuru district. He is a member of the Forum for Democratic Change. Angelo Izama is a journalist, political analyst and commentator and researcher. Onapito Ekomoloit is Legal and Corporate Affairs Director at Nile Breweries AB InBev. Gentlemen, we're coming to the end, and we'll need to spare some time to involve our viewers to share their opinions. So the phone line should be going on your screen any moment from now. You can call us and share what you think where this is all headed. But I just want to go back to Gilbert for a minute. And Gilbert asked, you made reference at the beginning of the show that there are some people who have come to Amuru. They've been able to acquire land without any conflict. And there is the controversy surrounding the Madivine land question. One of the issues I've had is that political elite in Amuru wanted, especially the land outside the nucleus estate that they're interested in for growing of sugar, that the elite are trying to acquire private title or using the communities so that they can ask for compensation at a higher rate. Could you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, thank you so much, Charles. As I told you earlier, we have other investors that came much later, and as I talk now, they acquired chunk of land, and community are very happy supporting them. For example, Dr. Amina. What she did, she went straight to the landowners and helped the landowners to process the land title onto their name. And then the landowners lease the land to her. Right now, it's like she's now hiring or renting land from the landowners. And also, the same applies to this white man who comes from Australia. When he went to Amuru, he contacted the landowners. He processed land title in the name of the landowners. A landowner leased the land to him. But the problem with Madivine is
there is a process going on in Amuru and in Acholi to convert what you call customary land into private Milo. Because if they process titles, and one of the major conflicts has been, I have been told, Angelo, is that the district authority, the district land board, has been reluctant to grant a certificate of customary ownership. But you're saying that these two investors helped people get titles in their name. So they're in effect converting this land from customary to private Milo. Isn't that going to be problematic at the end of the day? Because it's now owned individually by a few people.
Actually, that is part of the problem, our mess. The land boards in this country have with impunity given what's an equivalent, customary land is a freehold. It's an equivalent of a freehold. So the land boards in Bulisa and anywhere in Teso have no, first of all, they have no locus. They have no land to give from clans, from whether it was hunting area, because that land is already owned. So the public land, as allegedly put, is that land which has no owner. To my understanding, by 1995, there was no such constitution. So that is the first problem we have. But for me, in 2006, when there was Juba peace process,
Sorry,
in PRDP, my contention was, and some of us in national economy, that we should develop the IDPs into some settled cities.
Gentlemen,
but
my apologies. Let's just take a few callers,
Yes.
and then we'll continue with the discussion in studio. Hello? 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 I think we lost that one. Can I pick another? Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, your name and where you're calling from?
Yes, I'm Rogers from Jumani.
Yes, Rogers, keep your question or comment brief.
Yeah, I want to appreciate your effort.
Yes, please?
I want to appreciate your effort that the issue of land actually is very, very crucial.
Yes, go ahead, Rogers.
Yes, I'm calling from Jumani.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, now I want to ask a question to all of the guests.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to know from them whether, especially Mr. Olonya. Yes, Olonya was talking about the issue of land, now leaving this issue of power, which is also in Jumani. I don't know whether he has any new news.
Okay.
Yeah, so I want him to make a statement because he was one of the few guys who was fully involved in the issue of power, where it belongs to Jumani.
Thank you very much, Rogers. Gilbert Olanya will respond to you. Can we pick another? Hello? 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 Please turn down the volume on your TV set. We get an echo when you keep the volume up. Hello? If you when you're calling through, kindly turn down the volume on your TV set. Hello? 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 Oh, we lost that one as well. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, please. Your name and where you're calling from?
My name is Jolly.
Yes, Jolly.
I'm calling from Gulu.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I have a brief comment,
Go ahead.
and as well I will give you my opinion as well.
Sure.
You know this issue of Amuru land and land in particular in Uganda. Issue of interest.
Yes.
Amuru land or the land, the question we have in Uganda state is not the law, but how the law is being used and where, when, for what purpose. We have the constitution which tells us the land, how land is owned, when land is needed for public use, how it can be acquired. People living on that land can give way. I understand in Acholi or in Acholi sub-region, back then, land was given to government without compensation. For example, there is Achua Ranch, so what people or currently Pade. Government got that land without any hassle. But today, someone comes and begins turning the constitution by saying public land, when the 1995 says land belongs to the people and is customarily owned, makes an ordinary citizen get confused. Who is saying the right thing, the citizen or the government, which is still for the people?
Yes.
Now, I need to brief on people in politics or politicians plus the rich citizens go acquire the land so that they can benefit a compensation when government want to develop the land, especially in Namuru.
Thank you.
I am the son of one of the landowner who took the government to court, Umar Jakeo. Umar Jakeo is being said to have died. This is the old man who is alive. Now, few individuals out of the 4 people who turned to state house went and signed the document claiming that the other person or the other parties are dead when this old man is alive. Now, The land was acquired by this old man in 1985 before the government, the current government. So there's no way you will convince me saying some rich people acquired the land because they have known there is a development plan in those places. That is wrong.
Thank you.
So that is my comment.
Thank you very much.
The intention should be clear. The people should be made to know why government needs the land, and they hand over the land to government, and the progress comes, not by bringing in chaos and then throwing people like that, throwing people who don't have where to go to.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Can we pick another caller? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Your name and where you're calling from?
Yes, I'm Alpha.
Your name, sir? I think we lost that one. Can we pick another? Okay. Hello?
Yes, this is Michael from Bushanyi.
Yes, Michael. Go ahead with your question or comment.
Yeah, the issue of some individuals owning too much land, I think the amendment bill
should be?
The amendment should recommend that a group of people owning too much land should regulate how much land should be given to an individual.
Okay.
For instance, Buganda, there is a lot of land in the hands of few people, and therefore they fear land to be given to government.
Okay.
Yeah, so this should be taken advantage of in order to develop land for common man.
Okay. Thank you very much, Michael. Next time you're calling us, kindly turn down the volume on your TV set. You don't have to be listening to yourself on TV when you're talking to us. Do you have another caller? Hello?
Yes, I'm calling to make my comment.
Your name, sir?
Ernest.
Yes, yes, Ernest.
Yeah, I want to take this opportunity to talk to my younger brother, Mr. Olanya. First of all, I would like to thank him. He's a good fighter, and he has my support. But then, when I look at Mr. Izama's opening remarks, I just say, look, this is exactly what I wanted to tell my brother. He's a good fighter, but there is one problem. He fights with a lot of emotion, so that people easily mistake him that is a fighter. And they don't only mistake him, they say that is actually fighter. Mr. Izama, actually he is a good brother. He made that submission as a brother, because after that he went to support Olanya in the Amoro land issue. He said, look, this is exactly what it is, and that is exactly what Olanya was fighting for. So, as a brother, Gilbert, just make your submission so that it is received universally.
Thank you very much.
I've ever wanted to just get close to you. But this is the opportunity. Don't say, my brother, why do you come at this time to tell me that? So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ernest. Can we pick another caller? Hello? Hello? Okay, I think we need to bring this discussion back into studio briefly. If we have opportunity, we'll pick one or two more callers.
So
why don't we start?
Excuse me. I was still explaining some point.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, I was trying to compare how the Dr. Amina got the land, and then compare with my very group of company. Last time, Dr. Chris, the State Minister for Housing, he was here on TV.
Dr. Chris Bariamonse.
Yes. So he was saying the land title for Madivani shall be processed in the name of Uganda Land Commission. I really feel that is that is quite unfortunate. You know, what we need is that let the land title be processed in the name of the landowners. That proposal we presented before the president some 2 days ago when we met the president. We are saying let the land title be processed in the name of the landowners, and then later on, landowners shall lease the land to Madivani or
you have agreed to joint ownership. You have agreed that Madvani, for the 10,000 hectares they are interested in, which they actually have paid for, that they own 49%. 51% is owned by the government, and out of that 51%, the community can also own some of that.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, we agreed that the community shall form a trust. And then after forming a trust, the trust shall now honor the shares, the 51% being owned by the government. So in fact, in other words, we are going to divide the 51% between the government and the community. That is what we agreed. And then also we are saying, let the land title be processed in the name of the trust. Then later on we shall lease it to Madivare group of companies, like maybe for 40 years,
what is the
49 years.
Yes. What is the truth about some of you elite acquiring land so that you can be outgrowers for Madvani?
I really feel that allegation is not right. It's not right completely. There is no one.
And that includes the likes of former MPs Pento, Michael Chula, Nyeko, and Achiro Konchi.
Yes, as I told you earlier, Pento and Nyeko Michael Chula, they are from the clan called Lamugi. And that is their area. So they belong to that clan. That is why.
Charles.
Yes.
Communal land association.
Let us not make this about Gilbert defending himself against claims his own colleagues in Parliament indicted him. There's a parliamentary report there that says your involvement in the upper case was not very progressive. I just spoke to
about it, yes.
Yeah, so Rogers from Germany. But the fact of the matter is, just today I was actually on the phone to Germany. There's tension at the border. There's a land there's an official demarcation of that land, but the involvement of politicians, actually amongst them Olanya, to create a siege mentality has been part of the reason that the land relations there have been violent. And these are people who are communities that are living together for a long time. They even speak the same language. You speak Madi?
No.
Okay, unfortunately, because people who are at the border there, they speak the same languages. So how is it that in an effort to resolve these land problems, the violence has become part and parcel of the pattern? And by the way,
and that sharp divide between people who are actually essentially the same, intermarried, is now being...
It's the same thing. Now, you know, as of Wednesday, they were saying, oh, you know, we expect an attack from this side. Look, I think that you're right in saying that the interests of the political elite sometimes is not congruous with the interests of the community. If you look at Amuru alone, Amuru Nyoya, and these other places, a lot of the pressure we are applying on land for development is a fraction of the violence associated with land. Actually, sub-region has got some of the highest, you just have to go to the Gulu High Court there, incidences of violent land confrontations related to land. Am I lying?
Yeah.
And this has nothing to do with Madvani or whatever. And part of this is because the real issues about who represents the community, how customary tenure has to be defended, how do you acquire land privately if you're naturally, and you know, how do you do it within your clan setting or within a setting negotiating with other clans. This system has broken down.
We have very little time, so I need you to summarize, and then I'll go to Honor, and then I'll end with you.
On this Apa case, you know, the community of Madi and Acholi in Apa, they have no problem completely. Those who are fighting in Apa, they are coming from other areas. Even the community from Madi side are not aware of what is happening. So, what is happening in Apa is greed for land. And then the history of land in Apa is that the land was given to some white man called Bruce Martin. He comes from South Africa. He's an investor. So, the history is really quite unique. And then following the...
No, we're just saying that the minute you, Gilbert, you arrive there, violence happens.
No.
Because what you tell the villagers, especially on your side, is that people are coming to take your land, defend it with violence.
No, not as such. You know,
this is what the parliamentary committee said.
You know,
I'm not making things up, Gilbert. You have to take responsibility, because in the course of the last few years, lives have been lost, and there's been a lot of injury related only to the involvement of how politicians sought to resolve that issue.
Yeah, but really following Roger's questions, where he said I should really comment. You know, Apa is one of the villages in Labala Paris. Labala Paris is located in Pabo sub-county. Pabo is in Amur district. And we have the colonial boundary drawn by the British in 1962, which indicate clearly that Apa is located in Amur district. You know, there are other people that are trying to confuse that Apa is in a Juman district. Okay. And people have the tendency.
I'm afraid we can't stretch this discussion because we got to bring
this thing was already resolved by Parliament.
Hold it.
Regardless of what you
say.
Look, yes, for me, the land issue across the country, the politicians making it red meat rhetoric, as the Americans would say, a winning ticket, is no surprise, because it's something which is close to the hearts of the people. And they know that it's the easiest campaign topic. In every elections, land features, and people want to supposedly hear, where do you stand on our land? And the politicians fall for it. Of course, they need to rise, as Angela is trying to argue, they need to rise above the emotional expectations. And my argument is, it is fruitless to drive emotions about land in a country where people are struggling with the poverty and sitting on that land. Until when we confront that question, how do we strike a balance between land ownership and developing land?
Thank you.
That issue must be addressed. Otherwise, we are betraying the people by pandering to their idea of saying, this is our land, this is our land,
actually,
without
we
getting anything out of it.
Sometimes. Yeah. Mr. Mkitale, Burita Joseph is asking, he's curious to know, what is it, what kind of specific pieces of legislation did you want in that omnibus deal?
First of all, I come from Bulisa, where 10 years ago, 36 villages were targeted by Balalo, by GPS surveys, by aerial surveys. And as we speak today, they are the very villages which have CPF, which have a pipeline, which
what
have
is CPF
wells,
for our viewers?
Central Processing Facility. So you can see those who demonized us, who criminalized us 10 years ago, because we defended the population on the land. But for me, in Bulisa, which is 30% Bagungu, land, even in Apa, has no tribal, has no district administration. But we are talking about land rights, user rights, and ownership rights. You can even be an Acholi in Madi and own land. So people should not hide in tribe and district boundaries. Actually, the debate of district boundaries is redundant. We are talking about user rights.
That's what Gilbert was
and that's why I was talking about the other point.
In any case, the Bagungu are Luo anyway, so you are brothers.
I don't want to go into those details. Bagungu are Bachwezi.
Is there a tribe in Uganda listed as Bachwezi?
No, I don't want.
You are Luo.
I don't want colonial distortions to come in
here. It's not colonial.
I am talking about user rights. But the point I want to emphasize here, that land anywhere is equity. Acholi, Teso, Kalangala, if you have land in a smart partnership of a good investor who is not a land grabber, he would give you shares.
But isn't that a contradiction?
Land is a
isn't that a contradiction, Mr. Mkitale?
Land is a state.
You said radical title should be vested in government. Wait. Now you're saying it's equity.
I have talked about ownership rights and user rights. So your rights of ownership and user can be an equity in a smart partnership, and you have shareholding. You know, we are in SDGs. We are talking of sustainable development, all inclusive, and bring everybody on board, living on board. Why should we still have investors who want to own all the shares without participation of citizens? And that's why smallholders and outgrowers come in. So for me, I think government should urgently get money to systematically demarcate all land in the country, zone these industries, then have nucleus investors who come the Kalangala model with the inputs, with the technology, with the capital, with the value addition, with the microfinance. That's how we'll transform our communities into some urban setting of workers, but consolidating land for big development. The problem, we are divorcing this big land debate into small things of infrastructure acquisition without linking it to industrialization, without linking it to massive, extensive agriculture production, without linking it to modern, acceptable settlement patterns, because you cannot turn, without population growth, all the land to become scattered for living, for just sleeping. So we need to seriously look at land as a factor which we must plan. And if we do that, I don't see a very big problem.
Thank you very much. Our time is out. We need to get out of here. I'll just take one last message from Amanzuru Leslie William, who says, the biggest threat to land in Uganda is the ideology of the bad politics, premised on Ugandans by the state and accepted as well by the people. In every part, we have chunks, I think, of, yes, chunks of good kilometers. Chunks or chunks?
Chunks.
Yes,
chunks.
of kilometers of unused land lying idle. Let our politics deliberately model meaningful land use and management for the good of us all. Target laws will ruin even the little progress we made on land use and management.
And the lease would cure that. If you don't develop land in 5 years, it's revoked. It's in line with Onapito's point. You tax idle land and redistribute it.
Honorable Mukhtari, you might end up, especially politicians, you'll be a victim of that.
Considering,
I don't feel if you're able to use all the land that you own. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Our time is out. We need to get out of here. Thank you very much, Honorable Peter Komoloit, Angelo Izama, Honorable Gilbert Olanya, and Stephen Berahwa Mukhtari. Thank you very much to you, all our viewers, for joining us tonight. Do join us again next Sunday. And thank you very much to our production crew that stays up late to deliver the show to you. For me, it's a good night.